So with that, we have our presenters, Tim Reeson and his colleague from India on for the presentation that was scheduled at 9:05 Central Time. Sorry, I know there are time differences that are confusing everybody, so Tim, don't worry. With that, Tim Reeson and his presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Renata. I apologize for being late. We were under the assumption that we're working off different time zones. We're 12 and a half hours difference in India, and then I was thinking Mountain Time. So I really apologize for being late. We're excited to be here to talk about customized employment and a project that has running really well in India. And we'll just kind of review that. I'm Tim Reeson. I'm the Director of Research and Training here at Utah State University. I'll be spending a little bit of time talking about customized employment. And then Sapna, if you want to do a quick introduction, and we'll get to the slides.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Sapna. I head a transition program here in Mumbai that culminates in customized employment.
And our other colleague who is working off the assumption that we were starting at 9:10 Mountain Time. So they will be probably popping on here shortly. They were in the car. I just texted and they were in the car. But let me pull up the slides. Renata, I can share my screen, yeah?
Yeah, you should be able to. Yeah.
Okay, can everybody see the slides? Yeah, all right,
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking about customized employment. I was fortunate enough a couple of years ago to be invited to go spend some time in Mumbai with Sapna to kind of think through some customized employment and how we can implement customized employment given the unique challenges in India. And Sapna has taken some of the concepts of customized employment and has really built a beautiful, wonderful program at the Gateway School in Mumbai. So we're going to talk a little bit about customized employment, what it is, and then we'll turn the time over to really spotlight and shine all the amazing work that Sapna is doing in India. So just really quickly, just so folks kind of get a background of why customized employment and how it emerged. Typically, or for the longest time, since right around the 1980s, we were a lot of programs centered around this idea of supported employment. And supported employment is a program that's designed to support people with the most significant disabilities in maintaining and obtaining competitive integrated work. Now, it's been a wonderful program. It's provided a lot of support opportunities for individuals with disabilities to obtain work and engage in meaningful work. But what we were finding with supported employment over the years is that oftentimes people with the most significant disabilities or people with more complex support needs weren't necessarily being provided the opportunity to engage in supported employment. So so we started to kind of question, like, how do we support people with more significant disabilities in the workforce, given the current structures that we have? So supported employment, uses kind of a traditional approach to finding people jobs. So we work with this idea that we'll do an assessment with an individual, engage with that individual, learn about that individual's strengths, interests, and preferences, and then go and work with the market side employment, meaning we're going to apply for jobs that have job openings in the labor market, right? So we're going to go after those pre-existing jobs, engage in those jobs that are open for everybody. So we're competing for those market-driven jobs. If supported employment was people with disabilities were getting jobs, but what was happening, at least here in the United States, and I think the same thing is happening in other countries, is that oftentimes people with disabilities, people with more complex disabilities were left out of the game. They weren't offered the jobs. And those that were offered jobs that we refer to as like the F job. So working in fast food, or working in filth, or working in folding laundry, and so on and so forth. Customized employment works off this assumption that we're not going to compete for a job. We're going to carve a job or create a job for an individual with a disability. So it uses this discovery process, which Sapna is going to describe here, what she's doing in Mumbai, like an amazing job, but it uses this discovery process to learn about an individual's strengths, interests, and preference. And some of the work that I've been doing and the things that I've been learning about with some studies that I've done here in the United States with outcome data, we're finding that when we use the discovery process and engage in the discovery process, the range of jobs that people get are really much more broad and much more wide. So we're starting to see individuals in the customized employment paradigm engaging in work that's outside of those F jobs that we talk about. And individuals in customized employment are also earning wages that are, at least from the data that I was collecting here in the United States, was at least $4 more an hour than those working in supported employment. So really, and I don't have the exact reason why this happens, but my contention is that the reason why we start seeing better wages and different jobs is because individuals with disabilities and the people who are supporting them are engaged in this customized employment discovery process and the negotiation process, which automatically leads to better outcomes because there's more discussion about the job. There's more kind of thinking through the job. And so when there's more of that relationship with a business, then we can ask for higher wages and different specific jobs. So I don't know, Trish, is Trish on? Do we see Trish yet? Because this is her slide. She's not on. I can talk a little bit about this because she's running late, and I've already kind of mentioned this. But oftentimes, what we see with the challenges of supporting people with more significant disabilities is that they're often overlooked in hiring decisions, because if you compete for a job with a person without a disability, automatically that person with a disability is overlooked. And one of the reasons why is because employers make hiring decisions based on perceived risk. And there's data out there that shows that when an employer makes a hiring decision, they're making it out of this idea of who's going to pose the most amount of risk. So automatically, when you put disability in the equation, that increases the risk, and then employers are going to overlook that person, or they're going to have concerns about that person. So it becomes really difficult for a person with more significant disabilities to engage in the employment process. Furthermore, people with more complex disabilities have a hard time conforming to the rigid demands of job descriptions. So if we have to say a person does A, B, and C, sometimes a person with a more complex disabilities can only do A and maybe B, and not always do B, and not always do C. So customized employment allows us to negotiate and to kind of create this position that individuals with disabilities can engage in. So we already talked a little bit about discovery, and I want to turn the time over to Sapna here in just a second. But discovery is not an assessment, and that's really what we want you to think about if you're going to develop customized employment. Discovery is really what a lot of folks in the field call a no-fail approach to employment, meaning we're not trying to identify whether or not a person can work. What we're doing through the discovery process is figuring out how we're going to get somebody to work. So it's really a long process, or it can be a really engaged process where we're really spending the time getting to know the individual. We're learning about their strengths, their skills, and ideal working conditions. And we're doing that in places that are familiar to the worker, to the customized job seeker, right? So we're spending time in places that's familiar with the individual with a disability, so that we can really learn about what their strengths, interests are. And it really relies on these observations of the individual, and not standardized tests, not like your standard work assessment, or here in the United States, we use what's called O-Net, which is a job inventory kind of system that we can use. Customized employment says we're just going to look at the person, we're going to observe the person, in multiple environments, and then start thinking about the match. Then we'll move into customized job development and really negotiate with the employer. So Sapna, I think I'm going to turn it over to you for your work, so you can explain what you're doing in India, the awesome amazing work you're doing in India. So is this your slide, Sapna?
Slide, I think, no, I think we need to move forward to a couple more in the next one. Yep, right there.
This one. Okay, awesome. Yep, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tim. So
Mhm.
before I talk about how we implemented CE at the school I work for, I would like to share some insights into the type of employment available for people with disabilities in India. One of the oldest models of employment for individuals with intellectual disabilities is segregated employment, and often this is seen in the form of sheltered workshops. And these are dedicated spaces, specifically designed for individuals with disabilities, providing them with a structured and supportive environment to complete specific tasks. In India, sheltered workshops commonly focus on trades such as file making, candle making, incense stick rolling, etc. And while these settings offer a sense of stability, they often limit opportunities for career growth and independence. Another prevalent model that's there in India is a social enterprise employment, where businesses either directly hire individuals with IDD or they empower them to become entrepreneurs and set up their own ventures. But more recently, we've seen a strong shift towards competitive integrated employment, where individuals with IDD work alongside neurotypical individuals in mainstream workspaces. One approach for CIE is skill-based training, where individuals receive targeted vocational education in a particular field before they're being placed. And training is often tailored to industries considered more accessible, like F&B or hospitality. So while these traditional employment models have provided opportunities for individuals with IDD, they often follow a one-size-fits-all approach, limiting personal growth and long-term career prospects. The Gateway School of Mumbai, the organization that I work for, we are a not-for-profit school, a lab school dedicated to empowering children and individuals with disabilities. And as a lab school, we serve a small population of learners, but we're continually researching and implementing best practices. So when we heard about customized employment, a model that shifts the focus from fitting individuals into pre-existing jobs to tailoring employment opportunities based on their strengths, interests, and support needs, we collaborated with him and Trisha to understand more about customized employment and the discovery process, and looked at how this can be implemented within the Indian context. So the program that we've designed is called the Career Path Program. It's a program that is designed for learners who are 18 and above. It spans 3 years and it aligns with our organization's vision. Our goal is to empower neurodivergent individuals by building essential skills that promote independent living and help them become contributing members to the community. And the program culminates in customized employment. So as I mentioned, this is a 3-year program. In the first year of the program, we predominantly focus on building life skills like money management, money transaction, budgeting, independent travel, self-advocacy, etc. So the learners go on weekly community visits and practice these skills in real life settings to gain independence. We also expose them to leisure-based activities in the community to promote integration within the community. In the first year, our learners do partake in internships, but these are in-house internships. The idea is, we want the main focus to be on building job readiness skills, like the importance of punctuality, participation, problem solving in a work setting, say something's broken, something's not working, what do you do in the moment? So we focus on job readiness skills in year 1 of the program. In the second year of the program, we primarily focus on implementing these job readiness skills in real life settings through internships. So 60% of the year is dedicated to internships, while the remaining 40% focuses on continued practice of life skills. And during this year, our learners engage with the community through internships. We follow a gradual exposure model. So when they start internships in the beginning, it's just once a week for the first 2 months of the year. Then we increase it to twice a week for the next 3 months, and then culminating in 3 days a week in the final 4 months. And the last year of the program involves customized employment. Here, the learner embarks on full-time customized employment, but we continue to build the support structures and the scaffolds that are required before they are weaned off the program. But as Tim was sharing, an important aspect of customized employment is the discovery. It begins with the discovery, and discovery helps answer the question, who is this individual? So the discovery process is a 6-stage process which culminates in customized employment. And we've kind of staggered that into the first 2 years of the program. So in the first year of the program, we delve into stage 1 to 3 of the discovery process, which kind of helps build that data of the learner, which helps us understand the individual really well. We do this through interviewing all stakeholders to understand their perspective. We get to know personality traits and quirks that the learner has, their interests, their skill sets in various settings. What we also do is through the community visits, we expose them to familiar and unfamiliar activities. Now, these activities gives us a lot of data in terms of what works for the learner, what does not work for the learner, how do they communicate or respond to different situations in different settings. So it really builds that profile of the learner or the employment seeker. In year 2 of the program, we kind of collate all the data we've received in year 1, and then we identify internship spaces that could ideally be a successful internship for the learner. Albeit that our internships start out very exposure-based. So they get to experience different work environments, they experience different kinds of work culture. So this also gives them the opportunity to understand what works for them, and it also helps us understand more about the learner. And then at the end of year 2, we build the vocational profile of the learner, which incorporates their ideal work conditions, tasks that they can do, working hours that works for them, whether they require flexible days or not. And then it helps us identify organizations within our community that cater to our learners' needs. So this is, here the learner is proactively contributing to the organization, but at the same time, the organization is an ideal setting for our learner. I've got a few, pictures up. This is some of the community visit activities we've done as part of the program. So the first one is, laser tag, where they were working on team building. We did a nature walk as part of a leisure-based activity. And we have a learner, trying to book an Uber auto. So he's learning how to access the community with travel that's accessible within Mumbai. In the next slide, we have some pictures of internships that our learners have done. So they've interned at Starbucks, and the other picture is a couple of learners who are interning at an automobiles organization. I'm going to jump straight into a case study. So here we have learner S, who is on the spectrum. And through the discovery process, we identified the following emerging themes. He is an absolute empath, a total people's person, loves interacting, and is super witty. He's very creative. You will often find him doodling, creating sketches, and he includes hilarious memes wherever possible. He's a huge advocate for himself and for people around him, friends, family, peers, teachers. He loves technology and he loves automobiles. And we were able to understand the emerging themes through exposure activities that we got the learner involved in. So some of the exposure activities that gave us a lot of information about the learner are the following internships. So first, the learner took part in an internship where he did data entry in an automobiles company. Soon after that, he worked as a barista in Starbucks. Now, this helped us understand how important social interaction was for the learner while he was at his workspace. Next, he did an internship at a technology organization where he dwelled in some coding and content development, both of which seemed to be a huge interest and a skill set for our learner. So this was towards the latter end of the program while we were, moving closer towards customized employment. At this point in time, the learner did apply for jobs on his own. And, by himself, he found an opportunity with an organization where he worked as a programmer. He completed 6 rounds of interview and then got the job, which was a huge accomplishment for him, his family, and for us. So even though the job kind of did not support our findings through the discovery process, because this was an accomplishment, he decided to go ahead with this job. And the reason it didn't align with the discovery findings was this was a work from home opportunity for him. And his only interaction was with the supervisor that he was working with. While through the discovery process, we identified that he needs social interaction, he needs some movement break in between. And an 8-hour non-negotiable shift does not work for the learner. So as predicted, in a month's time, he quit the job. He did not sustain it, which kind of reaffirmed our journey towards customized employment. At present, this learner is our first success story. He has sustained a job for a year now at an organization called Killa, which is a blockchains company. And he works as a junior executive here, but his tasks include content development, researching for the website, creating templates as part of social media, and he's also implementing coding and becoming a website developer. To kind of build his experience with coding, he has completed training in CSS, JavaScript, and is now currently working on Bootstrap. The accommodations our learner gets at this workspace includes flexible work days. So he works 4 days a week. He has flexible hours. So his timings are from 11:30 to 5:30, while the organization runs from 10 to 6. We've identified buddies for him within the workspace, and we have identified times where he gets to interact with these buddies. He loves gaming, so the founder of the organization has set up a whole gaming system for him at the workspace, and he gets 30 minutes of gaming daily. And this has helped him become more productive at his workspace. Something that the founder shared with us was after they employed our learner, now that he's been there for a year, the churn at the organization has reduced. People at the organization have shared that the learner has helped them understand that it's okay to share emotions and express emotions. It's okay not to be so hard on yourself if you're not able to meet deadlines or if you make a mistake. So the morale of the organization has upped tenfold with our learner working over there. In closing, some of the challenges that we face with implementing customized employment in India, one is setting expectations for organizations. Often the disabilities that our learners have are not visible to the naked eye. And because of that, expectations are either too high or they baby the learners and have really low expectations. So something we've had to do was multiple sensitization sessions to help them understand how best to work with our learners. The other challenge we face is, peer support at the organization. Most of our learners require that buddy system at their workspace, but with jobs being very fast-paced and with the unstructured shift timings that's there, that has become a little bit of a challenge. It's also been challenging normalizing flexible timings and days when that's not offered to the rest of the organization. So again, sensitization or multiple conversations with the employees has become very, very important. CE is kind of a new concept in India. So it's also been challenging to help organizations understand the true meaning of CE. They still work with the mindset that there is a fixed job description and that's what the learner does. But we want to identify different roles that the learner can play within that organization so that the learner's productively contributing, utilizing their strengths and skill sets. So these are some of the challenges that we've been facing. Thank you so much for your time. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Sapna and Tim. Very informative Indian perspective. Before we get into questions, I just wanted to mention, I noticed that several colleagues from Ukraine have joined. I just want to explain that we played Sergey's video first. And we will now answer questions for the Indian presentation with Tim and then and Sapna. And then if our Ukrainian colleagues would like to ask anything, we can give them space right after. So questions for Tim and Sapna?
I just want to, Renata, I just want to recognize that Trisha's on now too, so she can help answer some questions.
Sure,
If
Yep.
any of y'all have questions.
that sounds great.
Thank you for a great presentation. This is Karen Herman. I'm in Duluth, Minnesota, working with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And my question is, are you targeting youth in transition? I might have missed that in your comments. Or are you targeting adults that have been in the work environment for a while and are moving rapidly through jobs, quitting, finding a job, quitting, finding a job, quitting?
So we are targeting youth and transitions because we've kind of built a program within the school where they cover, life skills as well. So it's twofold. We're looking at employment and transition, but at the same time, we also want to build in relevant skills that will help them become fully independent, functioning members of the community. So they are part of a 3-year program. So it's youth and then transition. Thank you.
And just speaking of transition, I mean, that's just such a logical time to do this stuff. From a transitions perspective, folks are at least here in the United States, they can receive transition services until 21. And so this is like a really good time to spend. I mean, you can really do some good quality discovery during that time frame. And, a lot of data shows that folks who have jobs prior to leaving school are the ones that maintain jobs once they leave school. So that what an awesome question, because that transition time frame is just a critical, really critical time for youth and young adults with disabilities.
I want to give a chance. So Trisha, would you like to introduce yourself? I'm sorry, we have a little different time frame going on here.
I apologize too. I just couldn't get here any quicker. I apologize. Yes, I'm Trisha Jones Parkin, and I am also with Utah State University, and I had the pleasure of going and spending time with Sapna at their amazing school and the work that they're really implementing. And I just have to say that working with lots and lots of employment specialists and transition people in the States, the way that Sapna has been supported to implement this work, and really their whole kind of program is kind of built around figuring out who this person is and where they're at their best, and which is the core principle of discovery. And it's been really exciting to see how they have implemented this with the challenges that she talked about. I mean, we don't necessarily have as many of those challenges in the United States, similar, but it just that, it can be implemented, it can be done. And that value of one person at a time, I just think is really highlighted in the way that they're doing the work and how powerful that is.
I also want to put a plug in Karen Herman, who has just asked a question. She will be presenting later on, and she's running an amazing employment provider service in northern Minnesota. So just a plug for her. So I also want to, so I have spent a lot of time in India myself, and I really, really appreciate the effort that it takes, I think, Sapna, in your context. And could you talk a little bit about how the stigma has changed for people with disabilities and people's attitude towards their employment?
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, there's been a very evident shift from, say, sheltered workshops to, social enterprise projects. Like from that, there's been an evident shift towards competitive integrated employment. However, the job opportunities available in CIE has been more towards, for a lack of better word, people on the higher functioning side of the spectrum, right? When it comes to people with intellectual disabilities, there really isn't much of an opportunity for them in India when it comes to integrated employment. With the 4 years of experience that I have in India, where I've been trying to implement CE, the change, I can see the change people, I think they're more, what happens is they're more open to internships because it isn't a commitment to employment. But with that internship opportunity, when they work with our learners, that kind of breaks the stigma. Then they understand, employers understand that our learners do have a lot to contribute, not just professionally, but also just in the way that they change the work environment for everybody around in the workspace. So slowly but steadily, the change is happening for people with IDD, but it is slow. It is a challenge. It is multiple conversations with multiple organizations, having to do a lot of cold calls, so just walking into organizations to seek opportunities for our learners. What's been most successful for us, honestly, has been our, the Gateway family, the contacts that comes through the Gateway family. So the parents champion change. So they reach out to the contacts they have. The advisory board reaches out to the contacts they have. That has helped us, give a way into organizations more than cold calls. But there's been a shift towards implementing or just being more diverse at the workspace.
Other questions and comments?
Can I just add to add to what Sapna's saying? I think like one of the most important pieces of whether you're in a supported employment kind of paradigm or a customized employment paradigm is what Sapna was just referencing. It's this relationship piece. Without the relationship with businesses and contact, this stuff doesn't work. You really have to have these foundational relationships across the board in order to really get in and start doing good informational interviews and learning about businesses and finding those matches. Like the relationship, I just can't understate how important or overstate how important relationships are in creating jobs for people with disabilities. So thanks for bringing that up, Sapna.
Thank you very much. Other comments and questions for Sapna, Tim, or Trisha? For our colleagues from Ukraine, as I mentioned, we played a video by Sergei Sidorev and Lydia Sidorev before Tim and Sapna came on. So if any of you would like to show on the screen, introduce yourselves or ask a question, please feel to do so. What we'll do now, I'm just going to share the schedule, just so we are all on the same page as much as we can, with about 10 different time zones. So we have played Sergei's video. We have had Sapna, Tim, and Trish. We will take a coffee break now. It is in Minnesota. It's 10 after 10 in the morning right now. That's where I am. That's where the schedule is anchored in Minnesota time. And so we'll reconvene at 11:05 Minnesota time. And we will hear a presentation by Dr. Jan Šiška and Zuzana Horálková from the Czech Republic. So we'll keep the Zoom open, but we'll see you in about 55 minutes. So have a good coffee break.